Take 37. Seems like every time I try to start this video, I get a call, something happens, maybe I forgot to put the mic anywhere near my face. That was take 1. This video is going to be in response to Aaron Clarey's video yesterday of cybersecurity versus computer information analytics. I'm looking over because I'm looking at the title of his video. I would like to watch his videos. I think he's got good insight, especially for the younger generation. However, I'm getting dinged. However, I think he's got a very small idea of what information systems security is, cybersecurity. I hate the word cyber, by the way. I don't think it means anything. It doesn't mean anything. It used to mean having cyber sex. Anyways, that when you used to cyber, that's what it meant. Anyways, we'll go beyond this. I've been network admin, systems admin, general hacker, and information assurance, information security guy for 25 years. I got into playing with computers back in 1988, I believe. Actually, I touched my first computer in 1983, 1984-ish. So, looking at an old guy here. I don't have that many gray hairs, thank God, but I want to touch on system or cybersecurity, information security, information assurance. First and foremost, this is a very in-depth career, very in-depth. If you take anything in IT at all, double it, and that's information security, data security, information or cybersecurity, whatever. You have to know a little bit of front-end development. You have to know a little bit about back-end development. You have to know a little bit about databases. You have to know system administration. You have to know network administration. And you have to know business. If you really want to be successful in information security, you have to know the business aspect, because we only do this to support business. A lot of folks get tunnel visioned and I've got to secure the data. But you can secure it so much that nobody can access it. And yes, your data is secure, but now it's useless. A lot of folks have an idea, and Mr. Clarey in his video mentioned the same thing, is, well, you throw a firewall and you're a firewall administrator. Well, that's a very small slice of what is this information security realm, information assurance. First and foremost, you need to, generally speaking, you're focused on the data. You're focused on securing that data. You don't want the grandma's secret sauce recipe go out to your competitors or to another country or whatever it is, right? And that goes for health information and your credit card information, your school records. So I'm talking about health information, HIPAA, high tech, your credit card information. That's your PCI DSS compliance regulations. That's your school records and so forth. That's your FERPA, and then you have your general Computer Information Security Act of 1986, I believe it was, and your FISMA, Federal Information Security Management Act. And these dictate that we secure and maintain our computer systems. The government does, anyways, and also how we report that up, so we show that we're spending taxpayer money. There's a lot of compliance and rules and regulations and laws out there that dictate information security. You need to know this first and foremost. It's not about throwing a firewall out there, because if you're throwing a firewall out there, what are you trying to do, right? Are you just trying to make somebody happy? Well, look, I threw a firewall out there. Well, that's great. You don't have to spend but $5 to do that. If you just want to say, hey, I got a firewall. Hell, Windows, Mac. I'm assuming Mac. I'm not very familiar with Macs, but Windows and Linux, they come with firewalls. You can program those things all yourself, and you don't have to spend a dime, right? You need to know a lot to be a competent security worker, is what I'm trying to say here. You need to, it's not about just throwing a firewall out there, because a firewall only stops, part of the stuff. There's some very nice, very good, very competent layer 7 firewalls out there. Layer 7 means you can stop it from web applications all the way down to the wire, right? And I won't go over the OSI model right now. Maybe I'll do that in the future. Maybe I'll have some IT courses, if you guys want that. I'll definitely be more than willing to talk on a topic on IT or security, for that matter, or business. But the business aspect of information security is probably 50% of it, because we don't do anything without business requirements, right? And that business requirement could be because, hey, we have a requirement to comply with federal law. That could be HIPAA high tech. Like, I work in healthcare, so it's HIPAA high tech and then FISMA for the most part. That's the big three that I'm really worried about. And that's making sure that, we maintain our systems in compliance with the law, and also we're not allowing our personal health information to be lost to out to the general public, to where people can be exploited by that, or their information being posted or whatnot. So we're protecting that information. Those are business requirements, right? If you just let IT run the information security, they're going to lock it down to where nobody can use this information. And but at the same time, you've got a high availability requirement for, say, in healthcare, we have patient providers, we have patient safety we have to worry about. That means those doctors and nurses and whoever needs to see those medical records, that they need to see that record and that information right now, or within like a couple seconds, because it could be impacting patient health, right? And that's the number one driver in healthcare anyways, is patient health and patient safety. So we have to maintain security of that information, while at the same time maintaining a very high availability of this information for the other people. So that this comes with pluses and minuses, right? One of the things we can get into later is called the CIS Triad: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And availability is, can you access the information when you need it? Business side will always focus on the availability. And then generally speaking, your IT folks will they generally have a tendency of focusing closer to in the middle of confidentiality and integrity, over on the far side of that triangle, right? What we have to do is kind of meet in the middle somewhere. So we have good assurances of confidentiality, good assurances of integrity, good assurances of availability. And that dot may swing a little bit around in that triangle somewhere. And as an information security worker, these are things you have to take in consideration all the time. You can be very focused on, I need to secure the data, I need to secure the systems, but you can secure them so much that you lock the systems down, and then you're going to be really irritating your customers of that information. The information is what's really important. Computer systems nowadays don't matter as much as they used to. They are still resources that if attackers get a foothold in that system, they can use that system for computing resources. They can use that foothold situation to exploit more computer systems, and it could be to exploit your data. Nowadays, your nation state and big hacking group hacks are to get that data, because then they're going to exploit that data. They're going to sell it to third parties, or they're going to try to exploit you through ransom, so on and so forth. This is my rambling here is kind of an unfocused attempt to let you understand that information security is not about putting a firewall on the network. That's one layer of it, but in information security, we have what's called defense in depth. And that means that defense in depth starts all the way from the hiring practices of the business. Make sure that people have the appropriate background investigations if needed. You want to make sure that somebody you're bringing in, you want them to have an integrity and show that they have confidentiality and so forth. Because as IT workers, we have access to everybody, all the secret sauce of that company or that organization. We can get in, we can see personal information, emails, it's called PII, personal identifiable information, so forth. That goes along with Privacy Act information, PHI, credit card information, FERPA, your education records, data, so forth. We have the ability to see all this as IT workers, so we have to have a high integrity first and foremost. So if you're going into information security, first and foremost, you have to be high integrity. You have to be diligent about this. And it's not so much because you're trying to protect your customers or your company or anything. That's a big part of it. But your reputation follows you very much so nowadays. And if you blow that integrity with somebody, you can ruin your entire career. So, and what I mean by that is, like, somebody's going to say, yeah, we hired this guy, but he started selling company information, and you're never going to get a job in IT or information security again, chances are. Not unless you're putting on the black hat, I suppose. Information security is a big, broad area. You have to know how to, you need to know generally how programming works, for like your front-end development, your websites and your customer interfaces and so forth. And you have to be able to test those. You have to know the back-end programming a little bit. You don't have to be an expert. It's hard to be an expert in everything that you need to be, securing. But you need to know who to talk. You also have to have a lot of personal, what am I saying here? You have to be able to you have to be personable and approachable, and you have to be able to talk to a lot of different audiences. And you have to understand it from their point of view. And if you don't understand from their point of view, listen to how they're explaining their point of view. And that's in large part the developers, because they're going to be developing their heads down, coding, writing code all day long. And unless you're coming from a developer background, that's going to be challenging. Same thing as like if you're a developer and you're going into information security, you may not understand the systems administration or the network administration or the boundary infrastructure side of it or the business side of it. There's a lot of things you may not understand. So long story short, I would suggest if you're going into information security, come in with some experience in other parts of IT. Especially network and system administration at a baseline. You can spend a couple years out there getting experience in network administration, systems administration, and it's going to give you a much stronger background. Coming in from like straight out of college, you took some college courses and now you got a certification in a firewall. That's great, but you're going to be doing what with that firewall? Are you, I will tell you from a manager's perspective that you should be enforcing company policy, corporate policy, business policy, whatever on that, and also whatever federal laws dictate what information you need to protect. So that's what the purpose of the firewall is. It isn't to stop the bad guys. That's a secondary objective, right? And that's usually part of your policy. But if you're coming in with no experience of any of these areas, from business all the way to development and everything in between, you're not going to understand why you're doing what you're doing. And you have to understand why you're doing what you're doing to some extent. I understand if you're just starting out in the career field, you're going to have a lot to learn. If you come into information security and this is your very first career ever, the last thing you did was flipping burgers at Burger King, and then now all of a sudden you're an information security worker, open up, because you're going to be drinking from a fire hose for a long, long time, right? 5 years. You're going to have a lot to learn. Every day is going to be a new experience, and you're going to learn more. One takeaway from information security, and this is why you see some burnout in this, is that you don't really ever have any good wins, right? You don't ever see your job completed. It is nonstop, relentless, repetitive. And does it get old? Absolutely. You will never see the end of your job. I mean, your contract may end, but you'll never finish. You'll never finish, right? And this is true largely for a lot of IT work, right? We never finish something. Now, some things, if you're coming in brand new on a brand new project, you can finish. Hey, your project is to build this, whatever this is. It could be a new application, and it's got 50 servers out there, and you have to build the infrastructure on that, and you have to do the engineering on that, make sure the bandwidth is good and the servers are appropriately sized, and then you have to build the application. You put all that together, and then you serve it to the world. Once that's done, and then it's accredited, you've built something great. Now you come into the maintenance phase, and the maintenance phase never ends until that project is decommissioned. That project might not be decommissioned for 50 years. Who knows? And or it could just be a stopgap measures, like, hey, we're going to be developing this other system, but we're still 10 years out on that because it's such a huge amount of data and a huge, process that we have to go through. So for the next 10 years, you're going to be going through weekly, bi-weekly, and monthly, and quarterly, and semi-annual, and annual checks and services that never end. So get that in your mind first, that this is not a job to where you win. If you want a job to where you feel like you're completing something, this is where hobbies come in, right? What I'm doing back here, building another 3D printer, and work on cars, have a garden, fix your house, whatever. These things, you'll have a goal in mind, and you can complete it, right? And that will help you bring satisfaction, because IT and information security, for a great amount of people, it doesn't really bring satisfaction. Paycheck's not bad. It'll pay your mortgage. It'll pay your bills, and you'll be able to put a couple dollars away at the end of the month. But if you're doing it right. But, and also the nice thing is that the job will never go away, but it's very repetitive. You know what's coming up tomorrow. You know what's coming up next week, right? There's very few surprises, especially when you've been doing this since, the 90s, for me anyways. You younger folks, the next 5 years or so, if you're first getting into this, you're going to really dive deep into a lot of topics, and it'll be a new experience for you. After about 5 years, though, you're learning, you start topping that learning curve, and then after about 10 years, you're going to be pretty competent at everything you're doing, and it's great for your career. It's just, it depends on your personality and what you consider to have personal satisfaction, right? Do you want to feel like you're finishing something? And if you want to feel that satisfaction of finishing something, then you either need to choose a different career, or you need to have good, strong hobbies, right? That will keep you sustained, so you have that completion. You can work on something after hours in your own time and on the weekends, and then you're like, I'm done with this, all right? I didn't go into the second half of computer information analytics on this because I don't want this video to turn out to be fucking hours long. I don't know how long it is already. I'm looking here. I don't see. Anyways, information security, cybersecurity. By the way, I hate the word cyber. It doesn't mean anything. It's a very large career field, and yes, you can make a career out of this. You can make a career that'll last you from straight out of high school, and I said high school, not college. You can do this without going to college. I mean, sometimes going up to management, they may require or want to see college, but experience carries the way. You're still going to need education, but straight out of high school with some certifications that you can study on your own and take these tests on your own and get in, and socialize and network with people. And you can make this career all the way until you retire if you really want to, especially nowadays. And so there's that. But it's like Mr. Clarey put on there, it's definitely not just putting a firewall in there. That is less than 1% of this career field. That's a speed bump in a mile-long road of speed bumps that we put in to make sure that we can slow down attackers to getting that information, right? And nowadays it's really transitioning away from computer security and network security over to data security, We still secure computers and networks, but the data is the secret sauce that we protect. All right. So if you want me to go into any more of these topics in more detail, leave a comment below, and I'll make sure to go into it. And I've been doing IT for quite some time. I'm fairly competent in most things. I'm not a developer. So if you ask me programming questions, I'm just going to tell you go on like Free Code Academy on YouTube, right? And get your answers there. If you want to learn how to do security tests on web applications, though, I can help a little bit with that, and yada, yada, yada. There's a lot I can do on the development side other than actually writing the code. That being said, one of my closing thoughts today, I want to kind of do closing thoughts. And I'm going to put this on here. And these are funny, I think, maybe. And today's closing thought will be, if sex doesn't define gender, why do transsexual gender reassignment surgeries happen? And that's my closing thought for the day. Anyways, go ahead and subscribe to this channel, and leave a comment if you want me to go into more detail about anything, really anything. I'll go into detail about just about anything if I see it serves the greater community. And have a great day.